If you work with engineering drawings, you'll typically need to place tolerancing dimensions. And MicroStation has a couple of methods for adding tolerances to dimensions. One method uses the dimension settings, while the second method uses the text tools. Let's take a look at the dimensioning tools first. I will open the Dimension Styles dialog first. Let's take a look at our current settings because we will have to change them. Now, typically, when you're working in engineering and you are tolerancing, you would normally be working with 1 unit of measurement. And right now, I'm set in the architectural style using English dimensions. I have to change this to a single unit. And in this case, I would choose inches. Now, as you can see, we are currently in the Eng 3-inch style, which is fine for the moment, but it will get changed. The font and the font height and width are fine. We'll leave those where they are for the moment. Next is units. And this is where things need to be changed. Now, right now I'm using the working units, which, as I said, were architectural. I'm seeing a label format of master unit and subunit with labels. And the labels, of course, being the tick marks for feet and inches. That will have to change to a single unit with a label. And the feet and inches must be changed to just inches. Now, I could change it here. I could turn off working units, which will now activate the settings here. But that is a little messy and it can cause problems. For example, if I go to the Geometry tab, where I will need to go for the tolerance settings, and here's tolerance, notice that in the tolerance values, in the upper and the lower tolerance values, I'm actually seeing 0:0 in both cases, which implies that I am seeing feet and inches. I don't want that. I will need a single unit with decimals. So that is part of the problem that we have to solve. What I'm going to do is get back to units. I'm leaving working units on, but I'm going to change the working units, which makes more sense. So off to Settings and Design File. And here are my working unit settings. Right now we're master unit and subunit. I need to change that to a single master unit. The master unit gets changed to inches. Inches remains for subunits because that will not be used now in the dimensions. Accuracy needs to go to a decimal. I'll use 3 decimal places. And I must change the label, which is popped in as IN for inches. That needs to be the double tick mark for inches. I will tab that to set it. And we're done here. So I'll say OK. Now when I get back to my dimensions and the unit settings, we'll see that the master units have changed to inches, which is what we want. Subunits remain inches. We have the correct tick marks. But we still need to make changes here as well. So the label format will go to master unit with a label, in this case inches and the tick marks. Inches in the subunits, again, can remain exactly as they are. And accuracy gets changed here too. Now, this may seem a little odd that we've changed the working units and we're using working units, but this information hasn't changed here. And that's, of course, because there is a disconnect between dimension styles and working units, which may seem a little strange. But the point here is that you can set specific working units for a drawing, but work in different units when you're working with dimensions themselves. This is sometimes very useful. So we have the label set, we have the accuracy set, inches are set. Let's go to geometry. Tolerance, turn tolerance on, we'll need that. And now note that the units here and the upper and lower tolerance is now a single unit with 3 decimal places, exactly what we need. So quite a bit of maneuvering there, shall we say, to get to this point. But you would not normally need to do this because typically you'll be drawing in a drawing with the correct units already set in the first place. Notice, of course, that the Eng 3 style is now highlighted because I've made some changes. And it's telling me that it needs to be saved if you don't mind. But I'm not going to bother. This is a temporary thing just for this exercise. Having decided that, and with tolerance enabled, we can now go and set some limits. I'm going to set a limit here of 0.005 for the upper limit and 0.01 for the lower limit. Let's tab that to get it set. And then the next three boxes tell us how we want to actually place the tolerance itself. The text size box, as you can see, allows you to change the size of the tolerance text in relation to the current text size. The default is 1, so the tolerance text is the same height as the regular text. But you can make it smaller if you wish, which can look a little neater. We'll leave it at 1. The left margin is the horizontal space, again in text heights, between the tolerance text and the dimension text. You'll see how this works in a second. And the third one is the vertical space separation between the two tolerances. Again, we'll leave this at the defaults. And now we're ready to start. So I'll move this over a little bit so I can see my line, which I have handily placed. And the dimension string tool is running. So let's dimension this line. Now, we see two tolerances here, an upper and a lower, and that is because the current type is set to limit. In other words, what we're seeing here is the upper and the lower limit of this dimension, and that relates to my upper and lower tolerance values. So the dimension of this line is somewhere in between those two dimensions, but these are the tolerances that we can go to in terms of manufacturing or measurement. Now, to see where these numbers come from, let's change the type to plus or minus. And let's redo this dimension. I'll do it down below instead. Now we see the exact dimension of the line, 65.334, with the actual tolerances that are allowed, so either plus 0.05 or minus 0.01. So applying those two tolerances gives us those two values up above. So it's obviously a choice of which way you want to express the tolerances. So spend a little time practicing this, if you need tolerances, obviously, in your professional work, and try some of the options to see what the effects are. We'll move on, however, to the text part of this. And I will dismiss my Dimension Styles box. However, note that my Eng3 is still wanting attention. And if I actually close it right now, let's see what happens. What it's saying is, if I close the dialog box, I will discard unsaved changes. And really I want to do that because I want to get back to my original architectural settings. So I'll just say yes. It's also telling me now that Style Engine 3 is in use. Saving changes to this style may change the appearance of the existing dimensions. Do you want to proceed? No, I don't. So no to that. Now we can look at the text version of tolerancing. We need another tool for this, and it's not on the regular toolboxes, so we need to open another toolbox. Go to Tools and Toolboxes, and we're looking for Miscellaneous Dimensions. Here we are, Miscellaneous Dimensions, click on that. The toolbox opens. I'll dismiss that one. Here's my new toolbox. And the one I'm interested in is this one, which is Geometric Tolerance, which is the name of the tool we're going to use. And if you're interested, later on there's some extra dimensioning tools here as well, which you might want to check out. We want this one, so I'm going to select it. Now, two things happen. Let's move that over a little bit so it doesn't conflict. The text editor opens, because this is a text tool, and the geometric tolerance selection box also appears. And what you see here are essentially pieces of text, you could call them, but really they're symbols, so it's really symbol text, which we can add into the word processor up above and place tolerances. For example, let me give you an example here. Let's do a tolerance for flatness, so machining flatness. Now the symbol for that is this symbol here. But I need to create a box around this and add a value to it. So what I'm going to do is select this item first. So I've selected that item. it pops into the box above. It's just a left-handed inclusion. Now I'm going to place the actual symbol I want, which is this one. So click on that. The symbol attaches itself to the previous one, so we get right now an open-ended box. I need a line dividing the symbol with the text I'm going to place. So I will insert this piece of text. That gets me a vertical line and an open box. Now I'll insert the actual tolerance I need, and I'm going to give a value of 0.004. There's my tolerance value, and now I need to close the box. Although, of course, I could add more symbols if I needed them, or more text for that matter. So I need to close the box. So this symbol will close the box for me. There. Box is closed. So now, when I want to place that piece of text, I need to look at the method I'm using at the moment, and that's the tool setting. And right now it's on place note, but the other option is to place text. Let's leave it on place note for the moment, and note that automatically the place note tool is started, and the place note is available for me in the tool settings window. That opens automatically when I invoke this tool. This is a place note, so I will click and drag, and I'm dragging an arrow and the text item. Left click, right click. I'm going to go back to this selection arrow to stop the actual tool itself. And if you look closer, we'll see that I've placed a text note with the actual symbol text. I can do exactly the same thing with the place text tool. Let's use a different symbol. Let's open one up. Next, let's add the symbol for circularity, which is this one. Let's put the divider in. Let's enter a text for the tolerance itself. Let's do 0.5 this time. And let's close this box. There. Now, this is just a piece of text, so far as we're concerned, and you note that the Place Text tool has automatically started, since I chose Place Text. And now I'm simply placing the text as a piece of text. So this part at least is a little less complex than placing an actual tolerance dimension. I'm going to click on the Element Selection tool just to clear that selection. Now, if for any reason you cannot see these symbols correctly, or they're not displaying properly, then click on Font and select the Feature Control Symbols font type. That should bring these symbols back into place. As always, go forth and practice, particularly if you're an engineer.